All right, beautiful people. Peace and blessings. Top of the day. Sorry, I'm tired of y'all. I posted my message late too. Sorry for the lateness of this morning. Had to handle a couple of things, but we live. Trina, hey girl, hey Tylane, hey girl, hey. No, I didn't see your instant message. Tiffany, peace and blessings. Okay, so wait, Trina, you must have switched over here. Okay. Well, Trina, hey girl, hey girl. Auntie, Belinda Brown. We here. Grand Rising. All right, beautiful people. It is Monday, October the 11th, 2021, day 276 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 945. Today we are reading Job 28, 29, and 30. And then we are going to pick up in Caesar's Messiah in chapter 13 on page 317. Where we left off at. All right, so let's go ahead and do the Shema. All right, which is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. Robert, betwabu. All right, y'all. So let's minimize this. Close that. Job 28. Minimize it. Bring it over here. All right, y'all. Just trying to fix this screen, or minimize it, or adjust the size. Okay. All right, y'all. Kurt, shalom. Dream sky lover, morning. Okay. It's delayed on your end, Trina. Okay, cool. All right. So, here we go. Job chapter 28. Job speaks of wisdom and understanding. People know where to mine silver and how to refine gold. They know where to dig iron from the earth and how to smelt copper from rock. They know how to shine light in the darkness and explore the farthest regions of the earth as they search in the dark for ore. They sink a mine shaft into the earth, far from where anyone lives. They descend on ropes, swinging back and forth. Food is grown on the earth above, but down below, the earth is melted as by fire. Here, the rocks contain precious lapis lazuli, and the dust contains gold. These are treasures no bird of prey can see, no falcon's eye can observe. No wild animal has walked upon these treasures. No lion has ever set his paw there. People know how to tear apart flinty rocks and overturn the roots of mountains. They cut tunnels in the rocks and uncover precious stones. They dam up the trickling streams and bring to light the hidden treasures. But the people know where to find wisdom. Where can they find understanding? No one knows where to find it, for it is not found among the living. It is not here, says the ocean, nor is it here, says the sea. It cannot be bought with gold. It cannot be purchased with silver. It is worth far more than all the gold of Ophir. greater than precious onyx or lapis lazuli. Wisdom is more valuable than gold and crystal. It cannot be purchased with jewels mounted in fine gold. Coral and jasper are worthless in trying to get it. The price of wisdom is far above rubies. Precious peridot from Ethiopia cannot be exchanged for it. It's worth more than the purest gold. But do people know where to find wisdom? Where can they find understanding? It is hidden from the eyes of all humanity. Even the sharp-eyed birds in the sky cannot discover it. Destruction and death say, we've heard only rumors of where wisdom can be found. Yahuwah alone understands the way of wisdom. He knows where it can be found, for he looks throughout the whole earth and sees everything under the heavens. He decided how hard the winds should blow and how much rain should fall. He made the laws for the rain and laid out a path for the lightning. Then he saw wisdom and evaluated it. He set it in place and examined it thoroughly. And this is what he says to all humanity. The fear of Yahuwah is true wisdom. To forsake evil is real understanding. I know, Tiffany, right? Jerry, peace and blessings. Mom, shalom, shalom. Job chapter 29. Job speaks of his former blessing. Job continued speaking. I long for the years gone by, when Yahuwah took care of me, when he lit up the way before me, and I walked safely through the darkness. When I was in my prime, Yahuwah's friendship was felt in my home. The Almighty was still with me, and my children were around me. My steps were awash in cream. And the rocks gushed olive oil for me. Those were the days when I went to the city gate and took my place among the honored leaders. The young stepped aside when they saw me, and even the aged rose in respect at my coming. The prince stood in silence and put their hands over their mouths. The highest officials of the city stood quietly, holding their tongues in respect. All who heard me praised me. All who saw me spoke well of me, for I assisted the poor in their need and the orphans who required help. I helped those without help, and they blessed me, and I caused the widows' hearts to sing for joy. Everything I did was honest. Righteousness covered me like a robe, and I wore justice like a turban. I served as eyes for the blind and feet for the lame. I was a father to the poor and assisted strangers who needed help. I broke the jaws of godless oppressors and plucked their victims from their teeth. I thought, surely I would die, surrounded by my family after a long, good life. For I am like a tree whose roots reach the water, whose branches are refreshed with the dew. New honors are constantly bestowed on me, and my strength is continually renewed. Everyone listened to my advice. They were silent as they waited for me to speak. After I spoke, they had nothing to add, for my counsel satisfied them. They longed for me to speak as people long for rain. They drank my words like a refreshing spring rain. When they were discouraged, I smiled at them. My look of approval was precious to them. Like a chief, I told them what to do. I lived like a king among his troops and comforted those who mourned. All right, y'all. Next chapter and last chapter for today, Job chapter 30. Job speaks of his anguish. But now I am mocked by people younger than I, by young men whose fathers are not worthy to run with my sheepdogs. A lot of good they are to me, those worn-out wretches. They are gaunt from poverty and hunger. They claw the ground in desolate wastelands. They pluck wild greens from among the bushes and eat from the roots of broom trees. They are driven from human society, and people shout at them as if they were thieves. So now they lived in frightening ravines, in caves among the rocks. They sound like animals howling among the bushes, huddled together beneath the nettles. They are nameless fools, outcasts from society. And now they mock me with vulgar songs. They taunt me. They despise me and won't come near me except to spit in my face. For Yahuwah has cut my bowstring. He has humbled me. So they have thrown off all restraint. These outcasts oppose me to my face. They send me sprawling and lay traps in my path. They block my road and do everything they can do to destroy me. They know I have no one to help me. They come at me from all directions. They jump on me when I am down. I live in terror now. My honor has blown away in the wind, and my prosperity has vanished like a cloud. And now my life seeps away. Depression haunts my days. At night, my bones are filled with pain, which gnaws at me relentlessly. With a strong hand, Yahuwah grabs my shirt. He grips me by the collar of my coat. He has thrown me into the mud. I am nothing more than dust and ashes. I cry to you, O Yah, but you don't answer. I stand before you, but you don't even look. You have become cruel toward me. You use your power to persecute me. You throw me into the whirlwind and destroy me in the storm. And I know you are sending me to my death, the destination of all who live. Surely, no one would turn against the needy when they cry for help in their trouble. Did I not weep for those in trouble? Was I not deeply grieved for the needy? So I looked for good, but evil came instead. I waited for the light, but darkness fell. My heart is troubled and restless. Days of suffering torment me. I walk in gloom without sunlight. I stand in a public square and cry for help. Instead, I am considered a brother to jackals and a companion to owls. My skin has turned dark and my bones burn with fever. My harp plays sad music and my flute accompanies those who weep. And that, my beautiful people, is where we end our reading for today. Job, in the midst of his complaints. We will pick that back up tomorrow. All right, y'all. So let's hop on over to Caesar's Messiah. And y'all, I think I know what we're going to read next. I think. But I'm almost certain. That, remember, I mentioned the second book that he wrote. I was actually, there's a third one that he's writing. It's, okay, so it's two. Well, the third one is not done. The second one is called Shakespeare's Messiah, right? Don't let the name Shakespeare throw you off. Although he is going to be explaining things that he's going more, explaining more of what is in Caesar's Messiah, right? But he gives you a really good breakdown of more typology and how it kind of continued to flow when the Flavians first started doing it, like mimicking like Hebrew text and everything. But he goes and shows you how it's done as well with Shakespeare and the writings that Shakespeare does. And then he begins to talk about the New Testament. And then there's a passage on Revelation. And I was like, oh, we got to read this. I was like, should I read them, the Shakespeare stuff? But I think it'll be good because I went and I read all the reviews of everybody that read it. And they said that you wouldn't really understand what he's talking about if you haven't read this first. They said it's a good sequel, a good follow-up to Caesar's Messiah. But everybody's still waiting on the third book, which he's talking about some other things about it. It's just like this, I don't know. So I believe that's what we're going to read. It should be here tomorrow. Hopefully it get here before I go out of town. I leave Wednesday morning. It said it'll be here Tuesday, so I'm gonna be looking for it. And if it don't come, I hope they put it in the mailbox. So I might have to call somebody. Hey, you gonna get that package off my porch? I'm gonna be watching. I'm like, hey, go ahead and leave it there. And I'm gonna have to call somebody. Hey, go get that package off my porch. So okay. I know this kind of cutting it close, y'all. So, but I think that's what we're going to read next. Shakespeare's Messiah. And I'll post the link for it down, the Amazon link, the same one I ordered mine from. I'll post it down in the description box today. I'll add it to the thing so you can see our next reading, blah, 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 link. If you want to get it, go ahead and get it. If not, you can just come here and then listen to my voice, right? While I read it out loud to the people. All right. I just want to tell y'all that. Okay. So, I think it's really going to be good. As soon as I get it, y'all know I'm opening it right up to the section about Revelation. Because that was my book. The books of prophecies, Daniel, Revelation. I stayed in them books, right? All the end time prophecies, that was my thing. I had all the Left Behind movies, everything. Y'all, when I say I was deep in the strong delusion, I was deep in the strong delusion. Right? Okay, so. Yes, babe.
I don't want to put myself in right now. Letting me.
Wait, who came down here first? Did you just come down here?
I came down here first.
Right, that's right. I thought so. You came down here with Josiah, right?
I told them not to bring the HDMI. Guess what they did?
They bought the HDMI.
Yes, and I told I did. If he wakes up fast enough, come down here, play by himself, he couldn't up levels. He woke us up.
Okay, so wait, pause. Did y'all already?
He needs to stop bringing our laptops upstairs. The HDMI is down here.
What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start locking all the laptops back in the safe. Right? We're not gonna do that this morning. Here's what you need to do before you start that game. Isaiah should get to play first because he came down here first. But before y'all start that, get that stuff up. Y'all have dishes in there. Put them you can leave Bella's stuff. Sis gonna clean up her own stuff. But y'all get all that stuff out of there and get that stuff off the dining room table. Tara will be here in a little while. We got to start getting y'all hair done. What?
Along with Elijah?
No, Elijah's at work. But Tara and y'all nephews and y'all niece is coming. We got to start. As soon as I get done, I got to start washing them heads and stuff. Right? We 2 days out from our family vacation. Don't stare at me like that. Let's go.
Here when we get back.
No. That would defeat the whole purpose of what we're doing. And y'all can't be looking ragged because we're going to be taking pictures. No. Sorry, y'all. Okay. All right. So we paused on page 317. But I said to myself, I'm going to go back and to Josephus where it says, the most important work. So that way it can kind of flow right into what's here. Alicia, y'all, hey. Okay. So we're going to backtrack to page 316 up to the second paragraph. All right. Talaine, I can't really say where we're going. Oh, wow. I'll text it to you. Okay. All right. The passage is the most important in the works of Josephus for revealing the dating technique he was attempting to create. I have included the entire passage because it contains many points central to my theory. The passage begins with Titus bringing Josephus to the walls of Jerusalem to inform the Jewish rebels in their own language of Titus's concern over the ending of the daily sacrifice to God. The passage makes it completely clear that Josephus understands that Daniel's prophecies are being fulfilled. Note that Josephus is not reporting second or third hand descriptions which might merely suggest this. Josephus is quoting himself. Quote, "And now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the Tower of Antonia and make him a ready passage for his army to come up, while he himself had Josephus brought up, for he had been informed that on that very day, which was the 17th day of Panemus or Tammuz, the sacrifice called the daily sacrifice had failed and had not been offered to God for want of men to offer it, and that the people were grievously troubled at it, and commanded him to say the same things to John that he had said before, that if he had any malicious inclination for fighting, he might come out with as many of his men as he pleased in order to fight, without the danger of destroying either his city or temple, but that he desired he would not defile the temple, nor thereby offend against God, that he might, if he pleased, offer the sacrifices which were now discontinued of the Jews whom he should pitch upon. Upon this, Josephus stood in such a place where he might be heard, not by John only, but by many more, and then declared to them what Caesar had given him in charge, and this in the Hebrew language.
They're not sharing.
Listen, I'm gonna make y'all cut it off.
We're not even done cleaning. Get over here.
Yeah, go. You better help. You better pick up something.
No, we're not.
So he earnestly prayed them to spare their own city and to prevent that fire which was just ready to seize upon the temple, and to offer their usual sacrifices to God therein. At these words of his, a great sadness and silence were observed among the people, but the tyrant himself cast many reproaches upon Josephus, with imprecations besides, and at last added this withal, that he did never fear the taking of the city, because it was God's own city. In answer to which Josephus said thus with a loud voice, to be sure, thou hast kept this city wonderfully pure for God's sake. The temple also continues entirely unpolluted.
Zay sprayed red on my laptop.
Get out of here. Bye. Go put this. Bye. Put it up. Y'all quit spraying stuff.
We tried it last night.
Okay. Bye. In answer to which Josephus said thus with a loud voice, to be sure, thou hast kept this city wonderfully pure for God's sake. The temple also continues entirely unpolluted. Nor hast thou been guilty of all impiety against him, for whose assistance thou hopest. He still receives his accustomed sacrifices. Thou wretch that thou art, if anyone should deprive thee of thy daily food, thou wouldest esteem him to be an enemy to thee. But thou hopest to But thou hopest to have that God for thy supporter in this war, whom thou hast deprived of his everlasting worship. And thou imputest those sins to the Romans, who to this very time take care to have our laws observed, and almost compel these sacrifices to be still offered to God, which have by thy means been intermitted. Who is there that can avoid groans and lamentations at the amazing change that is made in this city? Since very foreigners and enemies do now correct that impiety which thou hast occasioned, while thou, who art a Jew and wast educated in our laws, art become a greater enemy to them than the others. End quote. Reference 176. Josephus is attempting at this point in the message to twist Judaism against itself. He tries to convince John, the rebel leader, in a manner reminiscent of Jesus, of the wisdom of repentance. To do this, he points out that Jeconiah, a former king of the Jews, surrendered to the Babylonians rather than risk having the temple destroyed, an act for which Jews will forever revere him. Notice also that Josephus is speaking directly to John, the rebel leader, who was the basis for the New Testament character, the Apostle John. Josephus, in effect, is using the Jews' own religious convictions to bring them to surrender, or as Jesus would say, to turn the other cheek. Quote, but still, John, it is never dishonorable to repent, and amend what have been done amiss, even at the last extremity. Thou hast an instance before thee in Jeconiah, the king of the Jews, if thou hast a mind to save the city, who, when the king of Babylon made war against him, did of his own accord go out of this city before it was taken, and did undergo a voluntary captivity with his family, that the sanctuary might not be delivered up to the enemy, and that he might not see the house of God set on fire, on which account he is celebrated among all the Jews in their sacred memorials, and his memory is become immortal, and will be conveyed fresh down to our posterity through all ages. This, John, is an excellent example in such a time of danger, and I dare venture to promise that the Romans shall still forgive thee. And take notice that I, who make this exhortation to thee, am one of thy own nation. I, who am a Jew, do make this promise to thee. And it will become thee to consider who I am that give thee this counsel, and whence I am derived. For while I am still alive, I shall never be in such slavery as to forego my own kindred or forget the laws of our forefathers. Thou hast indignation at me again, and makest a clamor at me, and reproachest me. Indeed, I cannot deny, but I am worthy of worse treatment than all this amounts to, because in opposition to fate, I make this kind invitation to thee and endeavor to force deliverance upon those whom God hath condemned. And who is there that does not know what the writings of the ancient prophets contain in them, and particularly that oracle which is just now going to be fulfilled upon this miserable city? For they foretold that this city should be then taken when somebody shall begin the slaughter of his own countrymen. And are not both the city and the entire temple now full of the dead bodies of your countrymen? It is God, therefore, it is God himself who is bringing on this fire to purge that city and temple by means of the Romans, and is going to pluck up this city which is full of your pollutions. End quote. And that's Wars of the Jews 6:2 and 103 through 110. Returning to my analysis of Josephus's use of the book of Daniel, I have included Whiston's 2 footnotes to the passage above. As the footnotes show, Whiston understood the relationship between Daniel's prophecies and Josephus's dating of the events of the Jewish war. A devout Christian, he accepted that Josephus was faithfully recording supernatural occurrences. In the first footnote below, Whiston recognizes that the siege of Jerusalem began exactly 3.5 years after Vespasian began the war. This time span shows that Daniel's prophecy, in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, had come to pass. Shalom, Perry. This was either, as Whiston believed, an example of Josephus's witnessing of the supernatural, or, as I prefer, an example of his deliberate falsification of history to create the impression that Daniel had envisioned the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem. Quote, this was a remarkable day, indeed, the 17th of Pernaerons, or Tammuz, AD 70, when, according to Daniel's prediction, 606 years before, the Romans, in half a week, caused the sacrifice and oblation to cease, Daniel 9:27. For from the month of February, AD 66, about which time Vespasian entered on this war, to this very time, was just 3.5 years. End quote. Whiston's second footnote is even more remarkable. In it, Whiston comes to show the exact conclusion that Josephus intended. Since Whiston could not consider the possibility of a non-supernatural explanation for what he read in Josephus, he concludes that God was aligned with the Romans, that the Jews were wicked, and that Jesus and Daniel shared the same prophetic vision. Quote, of this oracle, Josephus, both here and in many places elsewhere, speaks so that it is most evident he was fully satisfied that God was on the Romans' side and made use of them now for the destruction of that wicked nation of the Jews, which was for certain the true state of this matter, as the prophet Daniel first and our Savior himself afterwards has clearly foretold. End quote. If we accept that what Josephus has recorded above as true, then the prophet foreseen by Daniel can only have been Jesus. Likewise, Jesus' doomsday prophecies must have foreseen the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem, because it is the only destruction of Jerusalem that Daniel's prophet could have envisioned had he lived in the first century. Further cinching this knot of logic is the fact that it would have been impossible for Josephus to record this perfect manifestation of Daniel's visions had it not, in fact, come to pass in the wars with the Jews. Josephus recorded history to demonstrate that Daniel's prophecies came to pass in 70 CE. Josephus goes overboard to make certain that his readers come to this conclusion. This was one of the primary reasons the first Christians believed in Jesus' divinity. Somehow, this knowledge has been lost and is no longer understood today, even by New Testament scholars. Scholars have debated whether the testimonium was written by Josephus or added later by Christian redactors. In chapter 11, I presented an analysis of the testimonium that demonstrates that it is not separate from the two tales that follow it. However, for Josephus to remain consistent in his placing of first century events in context of Daniel's prophecies, he would have to place a Messiah at the point in history that these prophecies called for. Because Josephus claims that the end of the daily sacrifice foreseen by Daniel's prophecies came to pass during the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans, one needs only to work backward from 70 CE to determine if the positioning of the Christ in antiquities is consistent with this date. This is exactly what early Christian scholars did, using the relevant dates in Josephus and the New Testament to demonstrate that Jesus had fulfilled the prophecies of Daniel. The following example by Tertullian, written circa 200 CE, represents a complete victory for Josephus. Tertullian has completely adopted Josephus's perspective and arranged history to show that Daniel foresaw Jesus and the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem. Quote, "Let us see, therefore, how the years are filled up until the advent of Christ. For Darius reigned 9 years. Artaxerxes reigned 41 years. Then King Ochus, who was called Cyrus, reigned 24 years. Argus, 1 year. Another Darius, who was also named Melas, 21 years. Alexander the Macedonian, 12 years. Then after Alexander, who had reigned over both Medes and Persians, whom he had reconquered and had established his kingdom firmly in Alexandria, when withal he called that city by his own name, 10 after him reigned there in Alexandria. Soter, 35 years, to whom succeeds Philadelphus, who reigned 38 years. To him succeeds Eugetes. What? No, that's not how you say that. Euergetes. He reigned 25 years. Then Philopator, 17 years. After him, Epiphanes, 24 years. Then another Eugetes, 29 years. Then another Soter, 38 years. Ptolemy, 37 years. Cleopatra, 20 years and 5.5 months. Yet again, Cleopatra reigned jointly with Augustus 13 years. After Cleopatra, Augustus reigned other 43 years. For all the years of the empire of Augustus were 56. Let us see, moreover, how in the 41st year of the empire of Augustus, when he had been reigning for 28 years, After the death of Cleopatra, the Christ is born, and the same Augustus survived after Christ is born 15 years, and the remaining times of years to the day of the birth of Christ will bring us to the 41st year, which is the 28th of Augustus after the death of Cleopatra. There are then made up 337 years and 5.5 months, whence are filled up 62 hebdomads and a half, which makes up 437 years and 6 months on the day of the birth of Christ. And then righteousness eternal was manifested, and an Holy One of Holy Ones was anointed, that is, Christ, and sealed was vision and prophet, and sins were remitted, which through faith in the name of Christ are washed away. Remember, we still reading this quote of what he said. Shayla, hey girl, hey. 1, for all who believe on him. But what does he mean by saying that vision and prophecy are sealed? That all prophets ever announced of him that he was to come and had to suffer. Therefore, since the prophecy was fulfilled through his advent, for that reason he said that vision and prophecy were sealed, inasmuch as he is the signet of all prophets, fulfilling all things which in days bygone they had announced of him. Number 2, for after the advent of Christ and his passion, there is no longer vision or prophet to announce him as to come. In short, if this is not so, let the Jews exhibit subsequently to Christ any volumes of prophets, visible miracles wrought by any angels, such as those which in bygone days the patriarchs saw until the advent of Christ, who is now come, since which event sealed is vision and prophecy, that is confirmed. And justly does the evangelist write, which is number 3, and justly does the evangelist write, the law and the prophets were until John the Baptist. For on Christ being baptized, that is, on his sanctifying the waters in his own baptism. Number 4, all the plenitude of bygone spiritual grace gifts ceased in Christ, sealing, as he did, all vision and prophecies, which by his event he fulfilled. Whence most firmly does he assert that his advent seals visions and prophecy. Accordingly, showing as we have done, both by the number of years and the time of the 62.5 fulfilled hebdomads, on completion of which we have shown that Christ is come, that is, has been born. Let us see what mean other 7.5 hebdomads, which have been subdivided into the abscission of 5, the formerly hebdomads. Let us see, namely, in what event they have been fulfilled. For after Augustus, who survived after the birth of Christ, are made up 15 years, to whom succeeded Tiberius Caesar, and held the empire 20 years, 7 months, and 28 days. Look, I'm so glad he actually put in the English numbers in relation to these Roman numerals, because these longer numbers, shucks, I'm just getting acquainted with the single numbers like 4, 5, and 6. It's using all these years, but I'm glad he put the actual number of years in English so I can just read it. But it's Roman numerals all through this. If you got the book, you would have seen it. You would have seen it. In the 50th year of his empire, Christ suffered, being about 30 years of age when he suffered. Again, Caius Caesar, also called Caligula, 3 years, 8 months, and 13 days. Nero Caesar, 11 years, 9 months, and 13 days. Galba, 7 months and 6 days. Otho, 3 days. Vitellius, 8 months and 27 days. Vespasian, in the first year of his empire, subdues the Jews in war, and there are made 52 years and 52 years and 6 months, for he reigned 6 years, and thus in the day of their storming, the Jews fulfilled 70 hebdomads predicted in Daniel. End quote. While the above chronology is difficult to comprehend and historically implausible, it is only necessary to be aware that Tertullian and all early church fathers believed that Daniel's prophecies had come to pass in 70 CE. This belief came from their reading the sole historian of the era, Josephus, in conjunction with the New Testament. Another, less tortured, explanation of Daniel's connection to Christianity was given by Sulpicius Severus, 353 through 429 CE, in his book Sacred History, 403 CE. Quote, "But from the restoration of the temple to its destruction, which was completed by Titus under Vespasian, when Augustus was consul, there was a period of 483 years. That was formerly predicted by Daniel, who announced that from the restoration of the temple to its overthrow, there would elapse 79 weeks. Now, from the date of the captivity of the Jews until the time of the restoration of the city, there were 260 years." End quote. The Wars of the Jews, therefore, is entirely structured from its first paragraph to its last to document that Daniel's prophecies had come to pass within the first century. This indicates that Josephus was aware that the Son of God, foreseen by Daniel, had appeared earlier in the century and had been cut off. Once Josephus had begun the alignment between his history and Daniel's prophecies, there could be no stopping until Jerusalem was destroyed. Thus, Josephus was not mildly conscious of some unimportant religious mystic wandering about the Galilean countryside. Josephus was keenly aware that his work demonstrated that Daniel's prophecies had come to pass and that Jesus was the Messiah which the prophecies had envisioned. Since this was obviously the case, why then did Josephus take so little notice of Jesus? It made the forgery less obvious. If one wishes to create a prophet, it is easy enough. Simply invent one who existed in the past, then fabricate a work in his name dated from the time that you can claim he lived. In the book described the prophet predicting events that you have all In the book describe the prophet predicting events that you know have already occurred. Inventing the prophet and his predictions is not the hard part. The hard part is not having the forgery discovered. In order for the New Testament, Josephus's fabrication to be believable, the two works had to be seen as independent of one another. Therefore, Josephus focused on the events that Daniel had predicted and not the Son of God himself. All right, Robert, shalom. Be safe out there. You got to go. Remember, you can come back, listen to it later if you want to. All right. Josephus's successful effort in overlaying Daniel on events in the first century, in a way, provides support for my theory. It does so by being such an obvious ruse. The wickedness of the Jews in the first century was their refusal to compromise Judaism and submit to Rome. They did exactly what the religion of Moses and Daniel required. Josephus's use of the prophecies of Daniel to substantiate the events of the first century was clearly an effort to manipulate Judaism into alignment with Roman interests, exactly as was the case with the creation of Christianity. If the Romans were the creators of Christianity and the works of Josephus, why did they portray their fictitious Messiah as the one foreseen by Daniel? Among the Dead Sea Scrolls are many relating to the book of Daniel. They show that at least some of the Jews of that era were using the dating system within the book of Daniel to try to determine when the Messiah would appear to lead them in their holy war against Rome. The Romans understood that the Messianic Jewish rebels interpreted The Romans understood that the Messianic Jewish rebels interpreted passages from Daniel and others of their prophets in a way that justified their own militaristic theology. Among the Dead Sea Scrolls were found numerous examples of this type of interpretation. Roman intellectuals, no doubt, analyzed these works and realized that it was just as possible to interpret the passages in order to create an entirely different pro-Roman theology. Rome's solution to these militaristic, anti-Roman interpretations of the book of Daniel was to create a literature that interpreted Daniel's prophecies in a way acceptable to Rome, the New Testament, and the wars of the Jews. I will now analyze in depth the link between Jesus' statement concerning the abomination of desolation and Josephus' passage describing the end of the daily sacrifice. Early Christian scholars were aware of the three-way link between Jesus' statements in Matthew 24, the book of Daniel, and the wars of the Jews. St. Augustine, for example, understood that Jesus had claimed that Daniel's prophecies came to pass within the first century. In the passage below, notice that Augustine is clear about what period Jesus' prophecies referred to, the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem. Quote, Luke recalls these words of the Lord in the same context. When you shall see Jerusalem compassed about with an army, then know that the desolation thereof is at hand. For Luke very clearly bears witness that the prophecy of Daniel was fulfilled when Jerusalem was overthrown. End quote. Eusebius shared this understanding. In the following passage, notice that he actually points out that the works of Josephus are the basis for his belief. Quote, all these things, as well as the many great sieges which were carried on against the cities of Judea, and the excessive sufferings endured by those that fled to Jerusalem itself, as to a city of perfect safety, and finally the general course of the whole war, as well as its particular occurrences in detail, and how at the last the abomination of desolation, proclaimed by the prophets, stood in the very temple of God, so celebrated of old, the temple which was now awaiting its total and final destruction by fire. All these things anyone that wishes may find accurately described in the history written by Josephus. End quote. And that's reference 177. Matthew 24, verse 15 is interesting because it is only there that Jesus explicitly shares a vision of the future with another prophet. It is also the only place in the New Testament where the reader is directly addressed. Quote, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, in parentheses it has, this used to always get me when I read this, y'all, and it has in parentheses, whoever reads, let him understand, or it says, let the reader be aware, right? I'm gonna read that again, quote, let me go back up. In Matthew 24:15, Matthew 24:15 is interesting because it is only there that Jesus explicitly shares a vision of the future with another prophet. It is also the only place in the New Testament where the reader is directly addressed. Quote, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. End quote. And that's reference 178. In the passage from the book of Daniel that Jesus is referring to, the abomination of desolation is to begin with the end of the daily sacrifice. Notice that the time span Daniel describes is 3.5 years. Quote, and from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. End quote. And that's reference 179. When Jesus' statement above is read with the passage from Wars of the Jews,
he's done with the match.
Okay, well,
we're done cleaning.
Okay, what match? Who won?
Basically me, because he didn't know how to play the game correctly.
Okay, so you know what?
He keeps quitting training.
Yeah, training sucks. He already know how to play it.
But he doesn't. Let him get a couple training matches in. Josh, you have to be fair, right? See, because every time you play, no, you get more time than they do because you're more skilled than they are, and because you understand
when
that.
When they verse me, they learn how to play.
Okay, so you're right. When a younger person who is inexperienced trains or fights with somebody more experienced, if they're paying attention, they will learn and they will gain more experience by playing with you. But listen, there's also training matches. Let Isaiah play in training matches because right now, no, he's not like Josiah when he plays you. Josiah observes how you beat him up, and then he take your moves and try and use them against you.
It's going too long.
Listen,
he's already going into a match.
Look, listen. Isaiah just going to get frustrated and want to fight you because you keep winning.
He's going to lose.
Listen to what I'm telling you, boy. Yes.
I can't even play.
Look, listen. What I'm saying, long story short, let him get a couple training matches in where he knows he's training, right? Because if he knows he's in a training match, he's going to pay attention. But when he's fighting against you, he's just going to get frustrated because Josh is going to beat me. He's not thinking like Sia's thinking that this. Okay, that's exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. And he's going to get frustrated. Let him play a couple training matches so he can get his confidence up, learn how to work it, then let him come out the gate and try and fight you again, right?
And he's going to lose again?
No, see, your problem is you're thinking they're getting more game time than you are. But if you're constantly playing them, you are always on it. And they're the ones who are switching out. So, to make it fair, granted,
actually,
no.
Oh if I lose, I pass it.
Right, but have you lost yet, Josh? That's the whole point.
Yes, he has lost.
Oh, who did you lose to?
Him.
Okay,
Isaiah versus me in golf. Isaiah versus me in golf. I got the final point. He
okay,
lost.
Listen. Let him.
Anyways, he was on 21. I was on 6. I got the final point. I won.
Oh, y'all! I thought y'all was playing the other one. Y'all playing golf.
We're playing the one that we had when we bought.
Hey,
you
babe,
point your gun at me.
Listen.
And you on live now?
Listen.
We were just arguing just upstairs with the kid.
Oh, stop it. You was knocked out. You just
What's
woke
up, y'all?
Explain that to your daddy. I'm
What's
almost
up?
done. Go explain it to your dad.
No, we want to stay right here.
There.
No, we want to stay right here real loud.
I'm live.
No,
Y'all.
that's the reason why we want to be loud. Look who just woke up.
To the baby.
I moved, she moved. Just like that.
Look, people waiting for me to finish reading this. Well,
Hey,
probably
man.
not. They probably just come for the shenanigans in my
Man,
background.
it's something. You about to get it today, Jack.
Look,
You about to get it all today.
Look,
you want
y'all.
that smoke? We got it.
look.
What's up? Don't be pushing us back like, nah.
I'm almost done with this chapter 2 and I'll be done.
As soon as you get done with this, man, you about to start yelling throughout the house.
I sure am. I am. Did you see what that looked like in there?
All right, I'm gonna go take care of it.
Look, seriously.
I'm gonna take care of
Hello, go get your stuff up.
Okay, let me. Is there something else you would like to say, Mr. Murphy? You want to finish this reading?
it. I mean, I can't. Ain't
Come on. Oh, come on.
Wait a minute. Now I gotta go ahead. What you want me? Go ahead and take care of this, or read? You want me to do both?
No. I would like you to
see.
Take care of the mini verse.
Don't say you want us to leave you alone. Don't say that now.
Okay, I don't want y'all to leave me
You
alone.
supposed to be
hit a few
loving.
minutes. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Beautiful smile, baby. There you go. There she go. That's what we want to see. You gonna do that all day, right? Come on, y'all. Let's go.
Possibly.
Come on, I'm just playing. Come on.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Gosh. All right. We almost done. Little. We got like what? 1, 2, 3. 3.5 pages left. Okay. Okay. In the passage from the book of Daniel that Jesus is referring to, the abomination of desolation is to begin with the end of the daily sacrifice. Notice that the time span Daniel describes is 3.5 years. Quote, and from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days, end quote. And that's reference 179. When Jesus' statement above is read with the passage from Wars of the Jews that describe the end of the daily sacrifice, they provide an example, par excellence, of the prophetic linkage between Wars of the Jews and the New Testament. Note that Josephus does not use the same expression from the book of Daniel that Jesus uses above, the abomination of desolation, but rather Daniel used other expression, the daily sacrifice, leaving it to the reader to understand that one must lead to the other. I believe that the use of different but complementary terms from Daniel in the New Testament and the passage from Josephus was intentional, a sleight of hand aimed at convincing early Christians that the New Testament and Wars of the Jews were written independently of one another, which we know they weren't. They were written simultaneously to complement one another, to be read intertextually together, right? You can't read one and not read the other, or you're not even going to get what's just happened, right? You're not going to get it. And you're going to think these are true events over here, right? Y'all get it. Y'all been here long enough to know. And it was a spoof. All right. Quote. Hold on, let me read that again. I believe that the use of different but complementary terms from Daniel in the New Testament and the passage from Josephus was intentional, a sleight of hand aimed at convincing early Christians that the New Testament and Wars of the Jews were written independently of one another. Quote, and now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the Tower of Antonia and make him a ready passage for his army to come up, while he himself had Josephus brought to him, for he had been informed that on that very day, which was the 17th day of Panemus or Tammuz, the sacrifice called the daily sacrifice had failed and had not been offered to God for want of men to offer it. End quote. We almost done, y'all. We got 2.5 pages. I want to just finish this chapter because it's the end of the chapter. I'll be done in like 7 minutes. Okay. In the section from Jewish Antiquities below, Josephus again states his understanding that the destruction of Jerusalem was the fulfillment of Daniel's prophecies. I have included Josephus's self-serving argument that fulfilled prophecies prove the existence of God. This argument is interesting historically in that it may reveal the reasoning that Christian missionaries would have used with first-century slaves and peasants. In other words, the fulfillment of prophecies, which, of course, the combination of the New Testament and the works of Josephus represented, not only proved that God existed, but that his providence was with the Romans. It also suggests the era's obsession with prophecy, showing why it was made such an important part of Jesus' ministry. Quote, and indeed, it came so to pass that our nation suffered these things under Antiochus Epiphanes, according to Daniel's vision and what he wrote many years before they came to pass. In the very same manner, Daniel also wrote concerning the Roman government. Please go address whatever your concern is with Dad. Thank you very much. Sure. Go. He's on duty. Go. Yeah, yes. In the very same manner, Daniel also wrote concerning the Roman government, and that our country should be made desolate by them. All these things did this man leave in writing, as God had showed them to him, insomuch that as read his prophecies, and see how they have been fulfilled, would wonder at the honor wherewith God honored Daniel, and may thence discover how the Epicureans are in an error, who cast providence out of human life, and do not believe that God takes care of the affairs of the world, nor that the universe is governed and continued in being by that blessed and immortal nature, but say that the whole world is carried along of its own accord without a ruler and a curator, which, were it destitute of a guide to conduct it, as they imagine, it would be like ships without pilots, which we see drowned by the winds, or like chariots without drivers, which are overturned. So would the world be dashed to pieces by its being carried without a providence, and so perish and come to naught. So that by the aforementioned predictions of Daniel, those men seem to me very much to err from the truth, who determined that God exercises no providence over human affairs. For if that were the case, that the world went on by mechanical necessity, we should not see that all things would come to pass according to this prophecy. End quote. And that's reference 181. Josephus's argument above that Daniel's prophecies gives evidence to the idea that these men err, who determined that God exercises no providence over human affairs, is the only one that I suspect was used with the original converts of Christianity. In other words, since Wars of the Jews reveals that Jesus' prophecies have come to pass, it demonstrates Jesus' divinity. This proof of Jesus' divinity would have made it impossible to deny the New Testament's and Josephus's other claims that the Jews are wicked, that slaves should obey, etc. Who can argue with what the fulfillment of prophecy has proven to be the Word of God? Further, when the New Testament has Jesus predict the abomination of desolation, how could the reader understand what he was referring to? Nothing in the New Testament enables its readers to know that the complex prophecy sequence that Daniel uses to predict the abomination of desolation will come to pass during the Roman destruction of Jerusalem. Only one book has given the information the reader needs to arrive at this interpretation: Wars of the Jews. Therefore, the reader that Jesus referred to must also have been aware that Josephus recorded the fulfillment of Daniel's prophecies as occurring in the 1st century. Without Josephus, Christ's words are meaningless. Notice that Jesus is providing support for Josephus' contention that Daniel's prophecies were coming to pass. The logic runs in reverse. Jesus' use of Daniel's vocabulary identified him as Daniel's Messiah. If Jesus was Daniel's Messiah, then the destruction of Jerusalem must have been the one Daniel envisioned, because it was on the same timeline. The New Testament and the works of Josephus are completely entwined and mutually supportive. Finally, Jesus and Josephus both recommend only one prophet to their readers. They each recommend Daniel. Josephus writes, quote, "Yet if anyone be so very desirous of knowing the truth, as not to waive such points of curiosity, and cannot curb his inclination for understanding the uncertainties of futurity, and whether they will happen or not, or uncertainties of the future, and whether they will happen or not, let him be diligent in the reading of the book of Daniel, which he will find among the sacred writings. End quote. And that's reference 182. Both the authors of the New Testament and Josephus attempted to have their readers come to the same mistaken conclusion about the prophecies of Daniel that they came to pass within the first century. This fact suggests that the same person or group produced both works, because two independent authors would not have by chance come to such a conclusion. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today in Caesar's Messiah, and it is also the end of chapter 13. That was pretty good. Okay, y'all. 3:28. Oh, the next one is really interesting. It's a short chapter. Oh, not that short, but we might be able to read all of that tomorrow. It's called Building Jesus. Ooh, that's going to be our title for tomorrow, too. That's going to be so good. All right, y'all. It is Monday, October the 11th. Monday, October the 11th, 2021, day 276 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 945. We read Job 28, 29, and 30, and we read the rest of chapter 18 in Caesar's Messiah, and we started at page 317 all the way to page 328. All right, y'all. So if y'all came in late, you would have never known that I was late today, too. I had to handle a couple things this morning before we got live. So forgive me for my tardiness. Normally, well, I think until I reach like 1,000 subscribers, I can't leave little notes to update YouTube. Like, you can make posts in the community, like posts, like you can make posts on Facebook. I can't, yes.
I can end it first.
Yes. I can't do that till I get to 1,000 subscribers. So once I get there, and if I'm like running behind or something, I'll be able to post notes to YouTube, let y'all know, hey, we still going live. You know, I'm just running behind. We're going to go live at this time, right? But I'm able to do that on Facebook. So if you get the notifications on Facebook from my page, you will see if I'm running behind. All right. Because I always put it up there. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing and get out of here. Yes.
They are not sharing.
Okay,
They had a tie, and they're still not passing.
Go tell
If
Dad.
you have a tie.
Why y'all? Go tell Dad. Go explain that to Dad.
If you have a tie.
Go explain it to Dad.
If you have a tie,
You
you'll
sis.
pass.
Okay, thank you for letting me know.
You
Go explain
did
that to
like
Dad so he can talk to him. Go. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order. And he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out. I don't think there's any questions. Helene, I'll text you. I'll inbox you. All right, y'all. So that's it. Let me call baby girl down here so she can end this. Bella! Here she go. All right, y'all. Oh, so remember, we found the next book. It's called Shakespeare's Messiah. Same author, Joseph Atwill. But he's going into more, like I explained at the beginning, he's going into more detail about like the typology that was used in the New Testament, how they put everything together. But it's using the example of Shakespeare, because Shakespeare was a very known writer, a great writer, and produce some different types of works like Josephus did. But it's also going to reveal, Bella, wait, it's also going to reveal,
the video.
yes, I'm about to. It's also going to reveal the true identity of who Shakespeare really was, right? So where this, I forgot to mention at the beginning. So, you know how while we're reading through Caesar's Messiah, how it's breaking down different things, it not only uses typology to mirror things from Titus's time and gets like the same type of thing and just creates it a little bit different, but they switch the characters. They talked about it in the last chapter with Pauline and Fulvia, and once they explained, like Paulina, you know, the woman who slept with the dude, he tricked her, told her he was a god, that Paulina, right? Slept with him for money. Well, but she didn't get the money. Somebody else got the money. But he explained that story. He explained, Bella, stop. And he explained the story of Fulvia, right? But when he got done explaining both of them separately as it was presented, he broke it down and showed us how they actually switched the characters. And it wasn't Paulina, the one who was fooled and slept with the guy. It was actually Fulvia, right? And Fulvia was Paulina, right? So it's that whole switcheroo type thing going on as well to further hide the truth from you, but only the learned reader, those who are paying attention, the astute reader, would pick that up if they were familiar with previous history and things that were happening. They would have been able to pick that up, right? So in Shakespeare's Messiah, it's going more into detail on how people are switched, so you can really get that concept really well. I read a lot into it yesterday. They got it on Kindle too, right? He's gonna do a really good job of explaining that on how they do the switcheroo. Same thing where he talked about with it was another setting here, but anyway, it goes into detail, but it also begins to pull all that together and uncovers more about how the New Testament was created, and it gets into a chapter on Revelation and really begins to break it down, right? So you can order that. Like I said, I'll put the link in there today so you can see it on Amazon, and like I said, they have the Kindle version, so if you want to go ahead and download it on Kindle and dive into it, be my guest, right? So that's going to be the next book that we will begin reading in a couple weeks once we're done with this first. And like I said, I read all the reviews and stuff, and they said it was like a really good follow-up to this one. But if you haven't read this one, you may not understand the next one, because what's begun in here, he continues to carry through in Shakespeare's Messiah. And then I'm patiently awaiting the release of the third one that kind of goes into more detail and just kind of really sums everything up. And that's the one I don't believe has been released yet. They're still working on that one, right? Okay. So with that being said, all right, beautiful people, she done came and left. Okay, Bella, we're about to end it now, for real. Come on. Okay, come on. All right, y'all. I love y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll get that posted. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.